Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be another upgrades video. In today's upgrades video, we are taking a look once again at the Riley Defense RAK-74. As always, guys, you can head down to that description below and there are a bunch of ways where you can support what I do here on the channel. One of the first things you can do if you haven't already picked up one of my new Firearm Freedom t-shirts, you really have to. They are awesome. I wear them all of the freaking time. I love my shirts and I really seriously appreciate you guys purchasing those and repping the brand that is Firearm Freedom. That link is the first in the description below. And if you want to make sure you're not being censored out of existence here on YouTube, comment down below this video, like the video, hit subscribe. That interaction should help and make sure that these videos are not being hidden from your subscription feed. The Riley 74 is back on the table once again with some gorgeous new upgrades that we are going to talk about. I wish I could do this testing process quicker than what I am doing right now. 545 ammunition has just really started to dry up. We are now seeing just very small amounts trickling in here or there on some different websites. The price is now almost getting close to about the same as 556. And quite frankly, I am getting very nervous to shoot any of the 545 that I have. I saw what was coming a long time ago. You guys remember the live streams. I stocked up many years ago on 545 when it was still very cheap and very affordable. So it's not like I'm dwindling down to nothing. I'm just buying what I can for the actual review. I'm not taking from any of the surplus that I have. And unfortunately, with pricing and availability, that's kind of hard to do right now. So I'm going to briefly touch on the wear patterns and the reliability that I'm seeing on this Riley 74, but I'm not going to go fully in depth on it because at this point I just have about 320 total rounds through the rifle. I do not consider that anywhere near enough to tell you if I would recommend this rifle for reliability or not. I'm hoping to continue to bring this to the range whenever I stumble across some 545 and I'm willing to drop the money on it. I was able to source from my good buddy and AK expert a spare Bulgarian wood set that he had. Now he had this wood set refinished and it just looks gorgeous on this 74. I feel like a 74 is not complete without a really nice wood set, and this was the first time that I actually switched up the upgrades a little bit, and I thought it was perfect timing because as you can see, we do not have the Ultimac rail, which is a huge deal. We're going to talk about that in a bit. I also scavenged from another AK in the collection this Redwood style wood pistol grip. Now this one is a little bit wider all the way around, so it's actually very comfortable. I may add some goon tape here in the future, just give it a little bit more traction because it is slick at the range. Honestly, the checkering here on the sides does a really good job, so I don't have any issues there. The Bulgarian stock is just awesome. Where he sent this to get refinished, they did an incredible job, and I don't have any complaints whatsoever. You can see on the other side of the stock, we have a Bulgarian/Russian-ish sling swivel mount there in the stock. And of course, I am rocking the same Blue Force Gear Vickers AK sling that I was rocking in the first impressions video. This sling has continued to be incredible. I will say though, as a side note, and I've said this in previous AK videos, I might even said it in the first impressions video of this rifle, slings on AKs kind of suck all the way around. On an AR, you can really utilize that sling to aid in the shootability of the rifle. With an AK, you'll see a lot of the time that these slings are just kind of stowed up on the rifle. They're generally not around your body when you're doing drills with an AK. And if they are, it can lend to some problems. So most of the time I leave the sling dangling down below, and honestly that's the worst thing to do because it gets in the way even more. you'll see a few times with reloads or even on the GoPro or whatever that this gets caught up all over the place. So for the most part, it's on there. It's practical at times at the range to just kind of sling it over my neck and make sure the rifle's not dragging everywhere. The attachment that I chose to use up in the front is an HK style clip. I really like these clips on AKs. They just work well for me. They are a little bit loud, but it's not the end of the world. Clips onto that, no problem. It will wear the wood lower handguard a little bit, so that's something to be aware of. When it comes to the lower handguard, my buddy burnt it up quite a bit here. Shoots fast. I got nothing wrong with that. It actually makes it look pretty cool. So it is a little bit heat treated here, if you will, on the bottom on both sides, and that's just what you're going to see when you actually are running your rifles and you have a really beautiful wood handguard set like this. And of course we have the matching upper handguard on here as well. Now, one quick note on the gas tube. Some of you guys who really paid attention in the first impressions video may notice that this is a different gas tube. Out of all of the quality control and just fit and finish that I have seen on this particular rifle, everything has looked very good. The only thing to me that looked just horrible on the rifle was the gas tube here. It just, for whatever reason, there was machine marks all over it. I don't know why that was. It didn't really look great. So I decided to switch it out with one of my Arsenal gas tubes that I had just lying around. And this just, I don't know, it just completes the look for me. I don't see any part now that just looks crappy. That was the only thing that looked crappy, and if you mix that with the wood handguard here, it just looks perfect. For optics, since I did not go with the Ultimac rail, I went ahead and did the side mount, which I rarely ever do. This is the first AK that I've consistently run this Midwest Industries mount on. As far as side mounts go, the Midwest Industries mounts are awesome. They're super rugged. They are very heavy, but they are really well built, and I will say the return to zero on this is phenomenal, and it is incredibly low profile there on the dust cover, which is also pretty cool. So if you are going to go with a claw mount and you don't want to spend a bunch of money, the Midwest Industries mount seems like a really nice compromise. They do have other versions of this claw mount out today that are much slimmer, and they do have some that just mount directly into the Red Dot, which I also think is pretty cool. I'm running a Vortex Crossfire Red Dot on here. I believe this is the newer generation that has the 50,000 hours of battery life. That's the only difference from the older generation. This has a 2 MOA red dot, and of course I did not have any issues with this dot. It's working great, and on the Midwest rail, I do have a little bit of unused real estate here, of course, because it's just a small micro dot. The height of the optic is actually kind of nice. I'll give you guys that. It is nice to just not have to crunch my head down on that stock to see through the sights or the Ultimac. But with that being said, you are going to lose your iron sights in this situation. Not the end of the world, and worst case scenario, if your optic dies, it is obviously a pretty quick adjustment to take this thing off, and you're not going to run into any issues getting back to your iron sights. One of the other switches that I made with some Arsenal furniture was the muzzle device. This was the only other piece that I felt was not really finished properly, and it wasn't as terrible as the gas tube. It wasn't like there were machine marks everywhere. It was smooth. Just the finish, just, I don't know, it just didn't really look like it would hold up over time. So I had another Arsenal 74 style break in the collection just laying around that I wasn't using. I figured this would be a great rifle to put it on because, of course, it just completes the look. That worked out actually really well. I've had no issues with this, of course, at the range. It's going to be almost identical to the factory muzzle device. It's just basically a different finish. I've held it off long enough. We got to talk about this light mount, and here's where when we start comparing this, okay, to an Ultimac rail, here's where all you guys lose the argument. I don't even care. Go crazy in the comments section. You lose the argument here. This mount is from RS Regulate. Okay, it's a barrel clamp mount. It is the BM1 from RS Regulate. I have nothing against RS Regulate. They make some awesome stuff for AKs, but here's my just blunt honesty, this is not one of them. I paid out of pocket for this mount. I got it into the gun shop that I work at and just paid for it, and I was like, you know what, I want to keep the upper handguard. I'm doing the claw mount, so sure. And I have a Streamlight ProTac mounted on this mount. You can get a mount for your light that's going to put it into a different position. I will give it to you that this Streamlight tightening knob here is really not the best, because I had a lot of issues with this making contact with the gas tube. But here's why I don't like this mount. First of all, it is absolutely chewing up your finish on the barrel. Is this the end of the world? No, not at all. But you are going to begin to have rusting issues where it has completely rubbed away any finish that was on the barrel. Now, of course, once you get it tightened on there, it should only be damaging one section, but it's going to wear it. That's just how it is. This thing can get a little bit loose. It's getting just absolutely cooked on the barrel, so it's going to get hot. Whatever Loctite you put on there is probably going to struggle. You might need some rock set, but I was seeing this have some movement, and every time it moves, it's going to be scratching up that barrel. And then on top of that, to actually get it on the barrel and situated, you're scratching it all up, and that is, you know, one of the cosmetic issues that I see with it. And then the other main issue is this thing is so unbelievably hot. I mean, my light got hot enough that I had to touch it and move my hand off at the range at the end of the range day. I mean, if you want to talk about cooking an optic or cooking a light, I have no idea how quickly this is going to damage the batteries, but I would imagine it's going to cut the life down quite a bit, or possibly damage the light. So this is a huge issue, and some might say, well, you got it right by the gas block, so that's the problem. How, you know, yes, you could mount it up here on the barrel. How are you going to be getting to the light? Mounting a pressure pad all the way back here on the handguard, dangling the cord on the hottest part of the rifle possible? I don't think that's a solution either. And mind you, I had to get this back far enough because that's really as far back as I could go and still get to my light, which, you know, again, is kind of an issue because it's almost on the gas block. And if I rotated this down any further, I would have an issue clearing the cleaning rod, which I really like to have on the rifle. I don't like to remove the cleaning rod. That's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm using it just completely incorrectly, and you guys can let me know down in the comment section, but I don't think this is a solution at all. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, if you use the claw mount, then just get the Ultimac for just your light. And I'm kind of like, well, why in the hell would you have all of that pick rail space and just put a light on it, and then have even more weight and unused space back here with a dot? I get it if you're going to use a magnified optic, but I don't know. This is why I stick with the Ultimac, so I don't just rant and rave to you guys. It is what it is, okay? That is what we're seeing right now, and that's why I don't like running my AKs like this. Rant complete. How is the rifle performing at this point? I have still yet to have a single malfunction with the rifle. We are now getting over the 300 round mark, and it is performed flawlessly. I'm not seeing any issues with wear, no signs that something is looking abnormal. Everything seems to be work hardening properly. If we take a look under the hood here, I can show you guys the wear that we're seeing. So there is wear on that tail, the bolt carrier group. Is that concerning wear? Well, I would say no, not yet. It's really going to come down to if that work hardens and the burr on the bottom goes away. As far as the lugs here on your bolt, again, not a lot of crazy wear. I was seeing a little bit of peening on this lug here, and it is starting to slightly round over, so that's a spot that I'm most definitely going to be watching, just because that can potentially be a sign of improper hardening. So we're going to watch that, keep an eye on it, but as of right now, I'm not seeing any other signs of crazy wear or anything that I would be concerned with. And this lug, the only thing, again, is just that lip there that I'm really not liking. So we're going to watch that bolt, but right now everything's looking pretty good. The shelf on the inside of the receiver here. That's a spot that you really want to watch out for. I'm seeing almost no wear whatsoever. And of course, on certain rifles that you're seeing out there, you already start to see wear if it's not looking good at this point. So again, as far as wear, no issues there. Everything seems to be working just fine in that department. But once again, I'm not going to comment too much in the way of reliability just yet or how those parts are wearing, because it's only 300 rounds, and God only knows, stuff can really start heading south once you start getting north of 1,000, so we will keep tabs on it as everything goes on. As I've been seeing a lot of you guys in the comment section, people are kind of up in the air on these rifles still, and I really am myself. It seems that it's somewhat of a crapshoot when it comes to QC, and that's just what I'm hearing from you guys. This was not a cherry-picked rifle at all. As you guys know from the first impressions video, I waited over a year to get this rifle, and they just had it because it was actually a blem that there's a little bit of damage on the left side of the receiver, and that's the only way that I got this in stock. So it was most definitely not a cherry-picked rifle. It was just something that they had, and this is, I would imagine, the quality that you could potentially see. But I've also seen a lot of people have issues with the earlier versions of these rifles, other people complaining about accuracy problems. I have not seen those problems with this rifle, and quite frankly, I hope this rifle does well. As I've talked about before, there is not a lot of 74 variants available to us on the US market anymore. That's just the new reality that we're seeing. So I hope there are more companies in the United States that can make a freaking rifle properly and not have a rifle fall apart. It seems like all those QC issues, at least on this rifle, have been solved, and it's doing pretty well. One of the last points I want to talk about as far as shootability is the trigger. The trigger is actually really smoothed out. This thing is freaking light now, and it's very easy to accidentally start bump firing this thing from the shoulder. So that's just something to be aware of. Sometimes that does happen with these US triggers. So you got a little bit of take up. It's going to creep into that brake, and you're not going to feel the wall. That's just how this trigger is, and then it comes out to the reset right about there, and you're at your wall again. You can fire fast with this trigger, and I really do like that. I'm loving this rifle. It's actually kind of surprising that I like it as much as I do. I'm not really having any issues, and it has become kind of my go-to 5.45 at the range that I don't really care if I'm throwing around because it's not super collectible or anything like that. That is going to wrap up this upgrades video on the Riley Defense RAK-74. If you guys have any other questions about this rifle or anything else on the channel, please throw them down below in the comment section. You guys know I absolutely will get back to you. While you're down there, check out the links in the description, and as always, stay tuned for more great videos coming soon.